Is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to our friends on the East Coast. I am Todd Obert, President and CEO of Productive Corporation. Joined here alongside me is Mr. Ben Ellering, Senior Sales Engineer from Sophos. And today we are talking Sophos XG V18, the new release. Pretty cool stuff. Lots to cover, so I will make my portion of the program very brief, but very, very cool stuff. Ben's going to talk to you about the new features, talk to you about the new architecture, tell you what's new, a lot of stuff behind the scenes that he's going to chat about and show you a few slides on it, and then he's going to actually give you a demo of the new interface and show you some of the new capabilities into it. But brand new architecture, I believe, brand new chipset. Is that correct, Ben, on this one?
Yeah, there will be definitely some new hardware as it relates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the net of that is will allow Sophos to do a lot more of what they've wanted to do and do it a lot more kind of effectively and efficiently within that architecture. So stuff we've been waiting for a while. So what we'll do, we'll meet Productive in 1 minute. We'll fly through that. Then we will turn it over to Ben. And as always, if you have questions throughout, utilize the chat feature or raise your hand and I will ask the question. So for now, let's meet Productive in 1 minute. Well, who is Productive Corporation? Well, I am so glad that you asked. Productive Corporation sells security solutions for mid-sized companies. We have specialized expertise that can help you with licensing, technical questions. We also test, implement, and optimize the things that we sell. We'll do security assessments, help you review your security posture. We can help you with your Active Directory security. We do configuration assistance and UTM services, all sorts of stuff. We also produce a lot of third-party content, including this webinar. Tips and tricks, knowledge series, everything. You can find it at productivecorp.com, solving security. The bottom line is we have a lot of different resources to help you, whether that's our sales team, our technical guys, our content on the web, or just working with the whole package. We can help you with licensing, services, all of that. Help at productivecorp.com. If you're still using the rotary phone, call us 612-375-0204. So that is who is Productive. And one of the ways that we add value is by putting on presentations like this. So today, very lucky to have Ben Ellering here, who's Senior Engineer at Sophos, and we're going to talk about Sophos XG, the next gen UTM. Ben, I've given you presentation control, so you can go live anytime that you want. So Ben's been at Sophos for a long time. He's been in the IT security business for, I don't want to say forever, but for a significant number of years, probably going on 2 decades. Has seen a lot change in infrastructure and really knows what's happening and the challenges that you face every day. So let's give a warm virtual round of applause for Mr. Ben Ellering. Ben?
Sounds good. Thanks, Todd. Are you able to see the screen? Should be the Sophos Firewall Extreme Packet Processing Architecture. Okay, good deal. Yeah, as we go through, one of the things that we're going to talk about is the version 18 of the XG Firewall. When we look at what the main focus of this, the new software that we're developing is, we know and we understand that in the industry there's a lot of problems with inspecting SSL traffic. There's a lot of situations where the bad guys are actually starting to use encrypted traffic, HTTPS, TLS, those sorts of communications to actually deliver their payloads. And a lot of traditional and even next gen or UTM firewalls really struggle with SSL inspection. And then there's a lot of reasons for it. So one of the things that we wanted to do was take a look at what the big problems are with not only what SSL inspection has been, but also with TLS 1.3. You have certificate pinning, you have all these other things that come into play when we look at how can we effectively inspect that HTTPS or TLS, the secure traffic, right? So we developed a couple of different things. One of the things when we look at it is going to be the underlying architecture. So there's a lot of capabilities in devices and in hardware to be able to inspect traffic and take a look at things from a high level. We want to be able to drill down and take a look at the details. So when we start taking a look at some of the new high performance architecture that we've developed, there's a couple of things, and some of these terms might be new. You may be familiar with some of them, such as fast path or accelerated network traffic. That sort of those technologies, really what they do is go through and try and accelerate the traffic and make it faster for the end user's experience. One of the things that we wanted to do, again, as we were looking at this architecture, is understand that not all HTTPS traffic or TLS traffic is obviously the same. There's different risk levels depending on where that information is coming from, and then there's just certain things that are not going to really be susceptible to delivering payloads or malicious payloads. When you take a look at streaming processes, things like your Netflix, there's only certain parts of the data flow that you want to look at to be able to understand and identify, is there anything bad or could there potentially be anything bad in that particular traffic flow. So as we went through and looked at the architecture, it's one of the things that we also wanted to do. And when we look at the interface, hopefully you'll be able to see we've made the HTTPS inspection not only easier to understand and easier to use, but a lot more flexible to be able to take advantage of the things that are going on in an infrastructure. So in your traditional network packet traffic, right? So your first part of your data flow is going to be looking at the connection information, right? We're looking at where is it coming from. You're looking at source, destination. You may be looking at what type of traffic, port. And one of the things that we wanted to do is depending on, again, what that information is, it may just be trusted information from a trusted site that we don't have to run through the deep packet inspection engine. And this is not only configurable from an administrative standpoint, but there's a lot of things that we also do to automate this. Take your Microsoft updates as an example. That's one problem, and there's a lot of services like that. That HTTPS or deep packet inspection causes a lot of issues. So if we can identify that traffic up front, as we know trusted source, we know trusted service, we know what it is that they're going to be doing. We can just do our traditional firewall stuff, and we know we don't have to run it through the DPI engine. So we can go ahead and just pass that down to the fast path flow. Obviously, there are also other forms of traffic that need to be inspected. You take a look at low risk sites or sites that maybe you're downloading files or executables, sharing data with. You'll have your different sorts of engines that you'll need to run that data flow through. Your AV, your application identification services to be able to identify at layer 7 what is going on within an environment. So some of that traffic might need to run through and go through your full DPI inspection engine. Some of it also might only need to be the initial connection setup part of your data flow. So what we'll do is we'll take a look again at all that information and then decide what needs to happen. Once we've identified it from your firewall stack, then what we're going to be able to do is then we can just offload. We already know enough information about that traffic, so we'll just go ahead and keep that on the network fast path. But there may be continued inspection that needs to happen within that data flow. Maybe you're downloading a new file. Again, you don't need to go back through the firewall stack and do that inspection. You've already done that part. So just run it through your single flow DPI engine. And that's what we're able to do there. Again, this is all depending on the type of traffic that it is that we're looking at and we want to classify and is flowing through the device. And then there's also situations, again, we think about things like your streaming services. Then what we want to do is once all of that, your inspection, your initial connection stuff is set up, once we've been able to identify that that data flow is secure, we no longer need to run it through the DPI engines in your firewall stack. We can keep it on the fast path and make sure that we maintain performance. You think about your VoIP solutions, that sort of stuff. Those are things that don't need to continuously be re-inspected or continue to traffic to run through your DPI engine. So that's essentially what a lot of the architecture is that we're looking at behind the scenes.
So how much performance is that, performance increase? I mean, can you give me order of magnitude?
Yeah, that's always a challenging statistic to come up with because it really depends on the type of traffic that we're inspecting, right? If it gets to stay on the network fast path, you're looking at, wire speed sorts of stuff. So a significant amount of performance increase.
Okay.
So it definitely depends on the type of traffic that we're looking at and the things that we're inspecting. And again, not only is this set up and made it easy for the administrator to understand, is we also do a lot of this tuning on the back end. Again, we have connections and communications with your trusted sites, Microsoft, Apple, all those organizations tell us information. And we can validate that information to make sure that we're understanding that, okay, this is a Microsoft update, so the Microsoft services are going to be expecting certain responses back from the workstation. And in those scenarios, we can't do HTTPS or man-in-the-middle types of inspection because it will break their updates. So those are the sorts of services that traditionally in the past cause a lot of administrators headache to have to go through and add exclusions, and we want to be able to do that automatically. Based on not only where the traffic's going and coming from, but also the type of traffic that it is.
So then, but are administrators still going to have to put certain exclusions in, or is it going to really reduce the amount of,
It'll definitely help reduce the amount of administrative overhead, but as with everything, there's always different things in environments where administrators are going to have to do certain exclusions in certain services. And in those scenarios, what we wanted to do is also make it very easy for an administrator to understand what's going on. So now what we should see, and I'll move kind of into the demo part where we're actually looking at live interfaces. So you should see the control center for the XG Firewall. Is that the screen that you're seeing there?
Yep.
All right. So what we're looking at here is the actual interface of the firewall itself. Some of the other things that we're working on in version 18 is also the ability to manage it through Sophos Central, which is one of the nice tools that we have. This is a central management platform where you can manage multiple Sophos products. If you go in and take a look at your firewalls, again, you can see your firewall options, your configurations, which ones you have online. Also want to be able to go in and be able to take a look at some reports that are being generated. We can, again, all of this stuff here, this is live data. So when I'm clicking on these things, I'm going through and we can see the types of traffic and communications that's going on. And I can drill down and take a look at all of this stuff in more detail. But this is just kind of showing an example of some of the other things that we're working on in version 18 is give you the ability to not only do reporting and management from Sophos Central, again, that one pane of glass to manage everything, but also make it easier for administrators to not have to go to multiple screens. For this demo, we'll actually just take a look at the actual interface itself. And when we look at the control center, if you're familiar with the control center, you'll notice that there's probably a couple of other additional options here in this screen. First is, you'll notice down here is the decrypt sessions and decrypt capacity. That's one of the things that we want to make sure that as we're looking at the inspection process, how much traffic are we able to inspect? And we want to be able to size the device appropriately as well. Some of the other things that you'll notice is this nice SSL TLS connections side. Now I'm doing a lot of testing here, which is why I have a lot of failed attempts, but essentially what you want to do is you want to be able to get this down to, you know, very few failed sorts of incidents. And I'll show you a couple of nice things that I really like about that we were doing this here. The other thing you can see is how much of my traffic, and again, this is live data, is actually SSL or TLS, and how much of it is being decrypted. So 42% of my traffic is SSL or TLS, 33% of that is also being decrypted. And it could be for a number of reasons, right? We talk about exclusions, applications, certain things along those lines.
Hey, Ben.
But here, if I just, yeah, go ahead.
When you're ready, I got a couple questions, so you tell me.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we can definitely answer some of those questions.
Yeah.
Some of them.
So one, I mean, one's pretty straightforward. Do you need to go to new hardware to upgrade to V18, or is your existing XG?
Yes. Excellent question.
Yeah.
Excellent question. No, you do not need new hardware for version 18. That's one of the, even with the new architecture, your existing hardware will still be able to take advantage of the fast path and of those sorts of things. So new hardware is definitely not required to go to version 18.
Okay. And then can you talk a little bit about the spam filter module, if it's been updated since, I mean, this attendee is talking about the SG Firewall. Sure. So what changes with the spam filter have been added?
You know, I don't have a whole lot to cover on the email side. There are email improvements and things that have been focused and put into this, but it hasn't been a focus of this particular build or upgrade. You know, honestly, when we take a look at inspecting email from a firewall, it does a pretty good job of that. However, again, if we take a look at advanced email protection and phishing and looking at into the deep details of email itself, that's where, you know, again, depending on what you're looking for, the actual dedicated email product or feature set might be a little bit more applicable. So there are some improvements, but I don't really have anything that that I can go through or cover, was prepared to cover on this call.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, is that it for now?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so yeah, like I had mentioned, one of the other things that we can do is, obviously with these widgets, we want to make things easier to understand and use. So here we can see my little live graph, my charts over the last 24, 48 hours, weekly, or whatever it might be. But really what we're looking at here is, this is my threshold. I'm really not hitting any inspection threshold, which I guess is understandable in my lab because I only have like 40 or 50 devices behind this device. But one of the things that is nice is we can see the different applications that are consuming the HTTPS or TLS traffic, and I can come in here and I can fix the errors. So this makes it really easy. If you're seeing something happen in your infrastructure and it's causing a problem, we're going to give you this nice little widget here, and you can come in and say, okay, or I was having some issues with Zoom, and we can see what computer it was on, right? So again, when I click on these things here, I can see the computers and users that are using these applications. So that's nice visibility. But I can also just click exclude from decryption, and that's going to automatically put it in an exclusion list. So it makes it easy to do these sorts of things. And again, we want to make sure that you're excluding the things that you truly understand in your environment, right? I may need to do a little bit of research on this to understand, should I really exclude it or what's going on here? So that's one of the things that is really nice around the SSL inspection widget that we've been working on, is also give you the ability to go in and take a look at that. Where we start looking at the configuration. So firewall rules. Again, if you're familiar with the XG, this is going to look very familiar, but you can see a couple of tabs across the top now. So we have our firewall rules. These are the rules of again, things that you've defined. I like grouping my rules, as you can see, so I group them in different sets of how my environment is set up. And then within each rule, you're going to have a couple of different options. So as an example, if we want to go in and take a look at my user finance rules. So this is for my Active Directory user group finance. We still have the traditional HTTPS inspection like has always been there, right? So you have this. We're not getting rid of what is there. We're just adding additional capabilities to it. So here, what I'm doing is I'm actually using the new TLS inspection engine in this scenario. So I can go more information. What that's going to do is it's going to bring me over to the actual config screen for HTTPS inspection. But this is really the difference when we take a look at it is what you would see in a policy from a firewall standpoint. You'll also notice we've broken out NAT rules. And we've done this for a number of reasons. The biggest is flexibility. There's a lot of different users who want to NAT things in many different ways outside of a firewall rule, and now we can do that as well. So that's another big component and change that we put onto the XG version 18. And then we have the SSL TLS inspection. Now, currently, if we take a look at this, we can see that there's a lot of things, right? These here are actually features or pre-built policies. So these 3, 4, and 5 are rules that I've created. There is currently a bug in this version where it's not counting the counters, which I have been informed that's going to be fixed in the next beta release. And again, this is still beta code, so wouldn't recommend running this in production yet because we're still going through and working out some bugs, but it has been performing very well. So again, as we take a look at this, this is the first part, right? So we can see all of my different encryption policies and what the action is going to be. If I go in and I take a look at same sort of thing, I can edit these, and now we're going to see a fair amount of options and capabilities. So again, you should be able to see flexibility here. We can not only include or exclude websites, but also applications, which is very important when you start looking at HTTPS inspection. We also give you some quick selectors that you can choose from: maximum compatibility, block and secure SSL, or strict compliance. Now, these are the ones that we've created. And if you really want to dig into it and you really understand HTTPS and TLS inspection, you'll notice we give you a lot of capabilities here. So there's a lot of things that you can do, right? See all the different ciphers and the different configurations. This is something that nobody else in the industry can do today. Most organizations, yes, go ahead.
When you're updating, our existing rules going to come over from?
Correct.
Okay, so even back, like, I mean, is there any limitation? Like this one was regarding an SG 330.
So what you would do in that scenario is you would just there's a couple things you can do. One is you can use our services and a conversion tool to convert from the SG, right? Because that's a different operating system, over to the XG. Okay. But that conversion process is the same whether it's the current production version of 17 or the new version of 18. That process really doesn't change.
Oh, okay. Yep. So pro services or use the conversion tool.
Yep.
And we can chat with you about that. We have you noted. Thanks for the question. We'll reach out to you and have one of our guys talk to you about what's the appropriate path for you.
Yeah. So like I was saying here, when we start looking at what others do in the industry, nobody has the ability to really inspect TLS 1.3. And we're going to be able to do that. Most of the time when you look at HTTPS or TLS inspection, what the device is, if you have that configured, what they'll actually do is try and negotiate or downgrade to TLS 1.2, which we know isn't a great idea. So that's one of the things when we look at HTTPS inspection, some of the limitations of the existing companies that are out there is they'll actually do a downgrade of the TLS to 1.2. But like I said, there's a lot of configuration option here, so you can make this work and be very secure in your environment. But you can also choose our quick selectors. So if you don't understand the inspection, still just use our quick selectors. Use one of the ones that we have set up here, and you set in your source, your services, your destinations, and away you go. So you'll notice that there's a number of options. One of the things that I also do in my configuration is you'll notice I have a couple of user groups that I'm not doing HTTPS inspection on. And the reason for this in this scenario is I haven't deployed the HTTPS cert or the CA cert to these devices. You can't deploy it to your network hardware maybe your phones, or I have media devices. I have things in my environment that I don't want to do SSL inspection on, just because I can't put a certificate in there for them to use. So that's what the configuration and setup looks like. Again, it looks like it can be complex, but it can also be very easy to use when we look at the quick selectors and how we have that set up. Now, a couple of other things that I would like to take a look at is, and this isn't necessarily new to version 18, but really a lot of organizations want to be able to do is get visibility into everything that's happening in their infrastructure. So as an example, I don't know how many people are existing users, or if you use the live connections, and if you have it set up to do your Active Directory integration, you'll notice in my environment, I have a number of devices, and everything that I have signed in my environment, I have actually created a user for. So it's also called client list users. So some of these things will make sense. You'll know, obviously, this is my house, so I have different types of IoT devices that are in my environment. But when we take a look at the live information, it's really nice. I can do my sorting, see who's doing what type of communications. I have a user down here, Jill. If we go in and we take a look, we can see there's a few things that Jill is doing, and really not consuming a whole lot of traffic. Let's actually just maybe go and we'll have Jill. We'll try to refresh my little Twitch here, see if a video starts playing. And again, these are just some examples of really easy to get reporting information. So now I go in and I take a look. Again, I can look at my current activities. I can sort by application, upload, download, right? So this is currently what's going through the device. And you'll notice Twitch streaming started to show up here. So I can expand this and I can see that it's Jill. So again, I get a lot of nice detailed information. The other thing that's doing is, since I'm doing HTTPS inspection, I'm also going to get the details within what that is, right? It's not just going to be HTTPS, or it's not just going to be SSL. It's going to be what's actually going on. And now, if I look at Jill, I can see that there's more going on there. Now let's actually have Jill start generating more traffic here, and we'll launch that program. So as the user starts generating traffic, again, I can do my sorts, usernames, source names, destinations. I can sort on that. But here we'll just go in and we'll take a look, and we'll notice that Jill's going to start bubbling up towards the top. Now I can expand Jill, and now I start seeing a few other things, right? So my Twitch video is stopped, and now it's Amazon. No, Twitch is actually still there for that user. Let me expand Jill. So again, I can do refreshes, and this is just showing me real time what's happening and the things that are being generated from that user. Also really nice from a reporting standpoint, when we go in and take a look at reports, these reports are being built on the fly. So when I click on these buttons or update or make changes on what it is that I want to look at, these reports are being built on the fly. So again, it's really nice, gives you a lot of nice data. I can go through here, I can see John Smith has a fair amount of hits in the traffic. If I want to run a report for John, I can just go ahead and click on John. And this is going to run a report because this is over the last 24 hours. I can expand that and go back in time. I can look at more detail, and I can see what it is that was going on with John. Again, really nice capabilities. And once you start doing the HTTPS inspection, you get a lot better granular options and reporting information, because you're going to be able to see what it is that they're doing in details in that HTTPS information. So those are, again, a couple of the real quick things that are really nice to take a look at, not only from what you're running today, but some enhancements from version 18. You'll notice the central synchronization stuff. Again, the security heartbeat, the sync security, this is really important for continuing to give you deep insights into your organizations. When we look at things like sync app control, these are going to be executables that have actually been communicating through the firewall. Right, so we can see the actual executables and which computers they're on. I stay looking at things like Twitch. Here we can see there's a couple of Twitch updaters and the twitch.exe, right? So these are actual applications, and I can put them and classify them in different categories and then apply policies to those. Here we can see Twitch video stream was installed on 3 computers. I can see it's on the desktop, it's on this manager laptop, and it's on this TC or T530 PC. Again, I can see what all of that information in, which gives me great detail. And now some of the things that I can do is I can also do traffic shaping, right? So say I'm going to decide that I want all of my gaming or all of my streaming applications. I want to create a traffic shape policy. As soon as you put one of those executables into that category, you're going to be able to traffic shape it, which is very powerful, because most companies, when you start doing HTTPS or you start doing traffic shaping, it's only things that are traveling through the browser that have this enforcement. We can actually enforce the executable and make sure that that executable follows the same rules that I have set. Maybe I want to block it. Again, whether it's HTTP, HTTPS, we can go ahead and block that traffic. So that is a real quick high-level overview, some detailed information around a HTTPS inspection. I guess at this point, I don't know if there are any questions, or any other questions out there that, or anything else that we would want to maybe take a look at in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, I'll throw that out to the crowd. We are getting towards the bottom half of the hour, so we'll see if we get any more questions. There's been some great ones so far. What I got to say is, this may be my second or third time seeing this interface and seeing what's happening, and each time I just see something new, see something cool. I love the real-time capability. I think the reporting continues to get better. Seeing how it's working on the fly, and then just continuing to make improvements, and so pretty interesting stuff. Not seeing anything come in, so I'm going to take back over and say thanks, everybody. Glad that you took the time to spend it with us today. 30 minutes is a lot for everybody, especially you guys with 1,000 things to do every day and only the chance to get to about 50 to 100 of them. So really appreciate that. Ben, as always, great work, great stuff. We'll follow up with you guys and specifically with some of the folks that had some questions, and we're around. We can help you. We can do demos. We can talk about the new technology. We can help you troubleshoot stuff that isn't working optimally. That's what we do. So for now, I am Todd Obert from Productive, along with Ben Ellering of Sophos, wishing you a fantastic day and balance of your week, and hopefully we talk soon. Thanks, everybody.